Hello, everyone, and thanks for giving us your time today for VR Gamescast. I'm Ian Hamilton in New York, joined by Don Hopper in Missouri as we discuss what people are playing in VR headsets. We're wearing Quest 3 headsets with last generation meta avatars. We're using hand tracking with built-in microphones, and we've got Beck out there in Canada broadcasting this show for us today. Don and I are actually in different realities from you, technically speaking, because I see Don as his fully fleshed out form
You do.
here inside the studio, except our viewers out there, regular viewers, will recognize him as Grey Dawn, the all powerful. We were discussing here across VR Download. Go watch that with David Heaney and I on Thursdays. But David has a deadline of March to
Yes,
get
he
those
does.
avatars fixed to move us on to the new avatar system. But that means there's a deadline for Grey Dawn to return to the
It might
ether.
be. It might be. And I don't know. Is it going to be a sad thing? Is it going to be a happy thing when I get my pigment back? Or if I get my pigment back? You talked about if I don't, maybe we'll run a telethon, like 24 hours of Grey Dawn begging Meta for pigment. I think it'd be fantastic. But either way, we're here. We're back. It's 2025. And I am excited to be in the studio with you, man.
Yeah, so this is getting much more fun with Beck out there in Canada and Don in Missouri, me here in New York, and then we've figured out the roads to basically screen sharing our systems at the highest qualities possible
Yeah.
from those three locations. So uh, Beck out there in the 51st U.S. state, we're ready to
51st.
connect those internet connections and get our screens across the borders more quickly. We've got a lot of people tuning in over time. We'll build up this show. I think what we're going to do today is an hour-long episode. That's what
We
we're going
are.
to aim for.
Yeah.
Of course, when we say that, we end up going 2 to 3 hours. We got into the studio. We ended up talking about Reacher. Reacher season 3 is coming
Oh,
back
yeah.
to
Yeah.
Amazon, and we had a long discussion with Beck out there before we got in here about how excited we were to see season 3, and then. If I have any recommendations for you out there, go put on Reacher season 3 or 1 or 2, get into that show, and then go put on 10 minutes. Don't pay for it, but put on 10 minutes of the Reacher movie with Tom
Oh, yeah.
Cruise,
Yeah.
and just learn to never watch another Tom Cruise movie with just those 10 minutes. Like, do yourself a favor. All right, hello Recycled, we've got Scratch, Winter Minx, let's see,
Hello to
Opsar.
everybody joining. And also, since you didn't mention it, I just want to say thank you to all of our sponsors and patrons out there, Mike Mazzano, Holonet, Smash Drums, Podum. Thank you for helping us continue to do what we do.
Yeah, thank you so much. Yeah, we've got let's see, XR Developer News. Yeah, thank you to our patrons. I'm going to call them out myself as well. So
Yeah,
Richard Meller, Mike
there you
Manzano,
go.
Podum, Holonet, XR Developer News. Thank you so much for your support. We've got our members on YouTube as well out there. Do become a member if you can. I've seen them trickling in,
Well, I tell you
joining over
what,
time. It's really
uh,
great to see.
last week's download was fantastic to see all of the lively chat and all of the new members. So thank you to everyone who is coming over to our channel and checking out our live shows. We're going to be doing a lot more of this stuff in 2025. But for today, as Ian said, we're going to keep it a little more it's narrow. We're gonna kind of narrow it to just three subjects this time. So, and we're gonna try to keep on track. So, I think
We'll
today
see how that works.
yeah, well, I mean, it never does, but I mean, we gotta try. So, but if we do stay on track, the three subjects that we're going to be talking about start a little light with Gears and Goo's release on Apple Vision Pro. I know you've been wanting to talk a lot about that. One of the games that after I finally started feeling better from the CES flu that I was chomping at the bit to jump into was Arken Age, and we had a great review of that pop up on the site from Henry Stockdale. And then, a lot of people have been wondering where's our coverage. Dom was at CES all week, and then I came home, I had the CES flu, and if you can hear from my voice, I'm still kind of fighting it. But we're gonna end the show today with that recap of some of the more gaming focused things that I saw at CES.
Yeah, sounds great. Well, let's get into Gears and Goo. I hope we've got a video on that. If you,
Should.
yeah, so I think Beck just threw that up, and This was a really cool game from Resolution Games. So this
Hmm.
is for Apple Arcade on Apple Vision Pro, and for any of you Quest owners out there, or someone who doesn't have a headset right now, just curious about the technology right now. We cover all of gaming in VR and AR right now. It's a wide area where a lot of things are being tested out. And even if not a lot of people are going to play Gears and Goo, for the people that have Apple Vision Pro and for you and our audience who are curious about how this all works, it's a really, really interesting project because it was very clearly built from the ground up for eye tracking and the pinch interface of the Apple Vision Pro. So that is lacking on the headset I'm using right now. It's lacking on the headset Don's using. We have Quest Pros floating around in a couple of our offices. I think Don
Hmm.
has one.
I
I've
do.
got one.
Yeah.
And because I meta handed them out pretty freely back when they were trying to ship that headset before quickly killing it. And one of the reasons it didn't land was the face and eye tracking weren't great. It couldn't quite necessarily pull off what you see in this video and what Gears and Goo pulls off as a gaming experience. So uh, interestingly, in this game and in Demio as well with hand tracking, they have a middle finger pinch gesture supported right here. And so this middle finger pinch gesture, I do it on both hands, basically grabs the digital item in front of me and stretches it and shrinks it for me and lets me reposition it all in one single gesture. And I played Gears and Goo for something like 10 to 15 hours on 2 train rides from New York to
Hmm.
down the East Coast. And I was in Vision Pro the entire time. I turned on travel mode. And then I used this gesture to position and size the map that you see playing behind me at just the right spot with this gesture. And that's the beginning, right? Like that's just setting the scene, but it worked beautifully. I will complain that I couldn't set the the environment in this game. I couldn't turn on the environment to make it the moon or
Interesting.
one of the other environments. I had to let it sit in mixed reality. I think that was a decision the developers made, but I did let it know. I did let both Apple know and Resolution Games know that I would have preferred to be able to. I would have preferred to be able to go into one of those environments with this object floating in front of me. Some notes on like how this interface works is really, really interesting because if these little guys get too crowded, these little minions that cross in this, so Gears and Goo is a tower defense game. I guess you could technically call it real time strategy, but it's very solidly tower defense. But it's all built around eye detection. So all the interface items, everything you look and interact with, all you do is you look at it and then you pinch to select it.
Okay.
And then sometimes a second thing pops up that you drag around or move to interact. So one of the cool interface items here is like you can take the little minions and put them in the cannons. I can't remember what they're called, the specific weapon, but you basically grab them, look at them, move them over there, and they then release them and they move into this cannon. And now the cannon is more powerful to defend against these other things coming through. But the whole interface is really, really smooth. But this does show the limits, or at least like how you have to think about things differently. If these little minions get too crowded
Okay.
and the minions are too far away from me visually, right? Like if they're behind a few objects, it's really hard for my eyes to target that specific character among all of the others and
Interesting.
grab them in the heat of a battle. Like, so then I'm doing this pinch gesture, moving the map around so I can see that character and have like line of sight to him more directly. And then I can pinch on him. So it's very interesting to see the limits of eye tracking, but also I played this game more than I think any other game on Apple Vision Pro just right out of the gate. Like I put it on and just played it level after level after level. I was very much into the whole loop of just trying to get better each round. You've got multiple paths by the end of this game where the creeps are coming at you from multiple directions. You've got to manage hot and cold, and I think lightning sort of things to slow them down, burn them
Hmm.
up, electrocute them, and you've got different power-ups along the way that you can stop them on these paths. But by the end of these levels, you're having to very carefully like look over here and send a character over there, look over here, send a character over there. Maybe resize the map once you're level deep into the thing, or get it just right so you don't have to do that.
Hmm.
And it would have been better. Like I would have resized it in a much different way if I could have gone into full VR, right,
I
and
could see that.
repositioned it right here a little bit different instead of like positioning it here where I can also see the
Mhm.
best background
Well,
visibly.
I think one of the things that's great though is and just hearing you talk about it brings me back to like Demio on Quest because I don't have the Vision Pro to compare, but I love the fact that you're talking about the ability to rescale things and use that rescale to really kind of set the play space to your environment. Now, it'd be really cool to do it in the virtual environment, but I can see where this really shines in mixed reality.
So yeah, Don doesn't have. It's like the one headset you don't
It's
have
like
right
pretty
now.
much
Yeah,
the
it's like
one
the
headset
exception
I
to
don't have.
his entire. It's got to be frustrating. He's got a spot for it on his.
I do. It's
Yep, I
like,
know. I
yeah,
get it.
one of these days, there will be one in the collection. But
So yeah, so I and there's been a lack of gaming on Vision Pro, and so I saw Beck put it out there in the comments, or our community moderator, one of them put it out in the comments. Anyone in the chat or anyone in chat play Gears and Goo, and I see Arlen out there. Thank you for tuning in. Uh, let's take a minute to comment on that and just uh, mention why we're talking about this, right? Like
yes,
this is groundbreaking new work.
it
This is
is.
work we all need to notice and talk about, and it's one of the reasons we do what we do the way we do it, right? Like it doesn't matter to us that not a ton of people are going to go and find this game right now. It's still important work and interesting work that we can all
Oh,
talk about and think about over the long term. And in particular, Don, this resizing thing, I
hmm.
want it system level
Oh, I do too.
almost. I
I do
want
too.
like this an option I can turn on system level, and then I want about 10. Nah, let's be realistic. I want like 4 to 5 of these objects
Hmm.
around my office that
Yeah.
I
Oh,
can
yeah.
resize and pick up at any given moment, and then start playing right really
Yeah.
quickly.
I think scalability, I mean, especially in mixed reality, is so important and giving us the ability to scale that. I mean, to really fit, like I said, our worlds. But this is going to derail us. But man, Arlen just put something that's like really burning in my brain in here. So he says, what does everybody think about the idea of a co-located multiplayer MR and VR board game hybrid that switches to first-person adventure of Jumanji? Could
I
you
wonder if
imagine?
I wonder if the Void still has the license
Ooh, yeah.
to the Jumanji experience. So there was a Jumanji experience at the Void locations. If you guys don't remember those, that was, or maybe it still is because they were coming back. They had a plan to come back, but
Yeah.
physical locations. I remember I drove out with my family to Utah back in the day, and that's where they were headquartered, and went to the Ghostbusters experience
Yes.
that was there at their first location out there in Utah. And I think there's a smell creation system, so you
Oh God.
smell the Marshmallow Man from the
Yes.
Ghostbusters movie
Yes.
burning up around you. It's fantastic. Just a, like I just brought that from memory. I jogged it from memory all these years later so quickly. It's specifically because of
No,
that's
no,
how unique it
you're
is.
now bringing like my brain is on fire because well, two things. First of all, I got to say hello to my brother from another mother, Reality Check VR, my friend Caleb Eubank, in the chat today. He was with me the very first time I ever experienced location based entertainment, and that was at OC5 when the Void came, and I did the Star Wars. And stepping out of that shuttlecraft when you get to Mustafar and feeling the heat rise up
Yeah.
and the wind hit you, and then you're standing there with three other friends and we're all stormtroopers and everything is perfectly tracked. It is
Nick,
just
did you
like
ever get to do Nicodemus?
no, no.
Oh,
The only thing I've ever seen was
I
that
don't think a lot of
OC5
people saw
experience
that one. And
because
it was like,
I'm from the
that was
Midwest.
another one. I drove out to Vegas to see that one.
Yeah,
And
we
because it
don't
was,
have it here. We
Yeah.
don't have those experiences where I live. You have to go to places like Vegas or New York or LA or like big cities, so yeah, to be able to see that LBE like that, and now this kind of like is a little teaser. I wasn't really going to talk about this because it was sort of an interesting experience, but I'll kind of derail for 1 second. So the day that Kyle met up with me at CES, we were doing our private tour of the Sony booth. We were going back to kind of, confirm some things about the Zen headset and the scanning techniques and things that we needed for our article. Well, during that, the host asked us, "Were you supposed to do the VIP Last of Us experience?" And I was like, "Whoa, what? Tell me more," And it turns out they had a cave set up only for specific VIPs. We could not record. We could not do any photography. But it
You
was
did
using.
a cave Last of Us experience at CES, and you're telling me this about that? What? Wait, no,
I'm
sorry,
just
I
now
didn't mean
telling
to
you about
interrupt
you
you. I'm
now. Yes,
losing it.
okay.
I'm losing my mind.
So yeah, it was the group of us. Like I got a little controller that was a gun. Kyle had a controller that was a flashlight. We're all inside this like scripted. Like the guy comes into the hallway. All right, guys, we got some clickers and we got to get
All
past
right,
them.
take down Gears and Goo. I'm going to take down Gears and Goo because
Sorry,
this is
totally
now the
derailed us.
Last of Us segment. I need to hear more about this, Don. Go back.
Okay. So, well, first of all, we got to see the trailer for the trailer for the show and some stuff like that, and I'll share that with you privately. So yeah, they asked us, well, hey, were you part of the sign up? And we told them who we are, what Upload does, and they were like, oh, well, that's a match made in heaven. Of course, you are part of the sign up. So they jumped us to the front of the line, and we got to go into this cave, which was set up as The Last of Us. And it's all on these big LED walls and ceilings, so everything is looked like just super immersive. And I got a controller that was a gun. Kyle got a controller that was a flashlight, and we're trying to make our way through. And these they like all the zombified cordyceps people are everywhere, and all of a sudden all hell breaks loose, and Kyle's having to like aim with the flashlight while I take him out, and it was using like OptiTrack and your more traditional stuff that you would see.
Head tracking?
No. To track the weapons and stuff. So the weapons were tracked against the LED walls, but the accuracy was, but the visual experience, the environmental experience, the smells, the smoke, everything going on was visceral. And it just made me long for the holodeck.
So wait, walk me through explain to me these displays. Break down these, because there is no VR headset
walls,
here. This is not
no, there's no
stereoscopic,
VR
right?
headset. This is not. Yeah, no, but it was. It's like these big LED walls, and it's not stereoscopic, but it seems because you're in there, and the way that they have objects placed in front of the LED walls to give them depth, and you almost perceive it as stereo, and everything happening.
So you're talking about physical props that give you depth, sense of depth in front of. Interesting. Okay.
Yeah. So I really wish we could have recorded in there. Unfortunately, they literally like checked my camera to make sure it wasn't on. Kyle had his Ray-Bans, but we were being good. So,
all right. Being good. Oh
it was
my
impressive,
gosh,
but it was also not VR. So it was like we both came out of it going, okay, I would have enjoyed that much more in a headset.
All right, so yeah, I like this experience. So I went with Kyle too, and I love it if Kyle popped up in the chat because he'll remember this. But we did the same place that had Nicodemus in Vegas had the Jumanji experience that Arlen originally brought up here that got us off track. And Kyle and I, we went in there with the Upload crew at the time. And I think there was 4 of us. I can't remember, but we got, I want to say a third, maybe a halfway through the experience, and we had some kind of bug, and they pushed us through past that bug. And then we got to the final, like the final scene where you're facing off against like, it's very clear the climax of this experience, and you and the other people are all virtually separated, so you're looking at your other characters on platforms far away out there, even though you know that they're probably standing just a few feet from you on this platform. So it's a cool effect to see these people that are physically probably pretty close, visually far away, but we're standing there. We have to stand in this little platform, and there's some bad guy doing his bad guy things over there, and we're like, just just standing here in our big, bulky helmet headset, looking at each other over in the distance, like waving over there, waiting for something to happen. And a good, I don't know, 5 minutes, nothing triggers. Whatever's supposed to trigger to this climax. Imagine a boss battle. You're at the boss battle of a video game, and you and your three other, companions on this quest have gotten to the boss battle, and the boss battle's ready to do his animation over there to come and attack you all, and he just doesn't do it.
Oh, that
That
would
was
be
our last
so
moment in the
disheartening.
void. That was my last moment and UploadVR's
Oh.
last moment in the void over there with Kyle. And you can remember them like, I don't know if it was over intercom physically. They're like, okay, it's time to come out. And you take the headset off, and then you see this
Mhm.
uh dark landscape with, they've got all the walls set up, these dark low walls to give you physical barriers, and you look up and you see the cameras into various places to do this tracking system. And then we walked off and we were like talking to them saying, what's going on here? And then they were dead about 6 months later. That was the
Oh,
void.
man.
So
God.
I wanted to share that little anecdote story of just this. What a letdown. There is nothing more heartbreaking, because there's a bit, you spend a lot of money to go
Oh, God,
there.
yes.
You're excited to go inside this big experience. You don't know what rules like they're going to have when you get up
Oh,
there. You want to be
yeah.
respectful. So like you get this big bulky, like you get the
Yeah, they're
gear
suiting
on,
up
you're
and
strapped
yeah.
in, and then you get out there and the thing breaks, and you take this thing and you feel like, oh no, it's over. Like
Yeah.
this is going away, right? And now it's remarkable here, right? That this is 5 years later from whenever this happened. I can't remember when this happened. It would have been a long time ago now. Apple Vision Pro is a helmet,
Mhm.
like it's a big, bulky headset, but it's obviously a much easier strap to
Yes.
put the battery pack on your side or on a sling than the big backpack was. And you could hypothetically like have a pretty base,
Oh, man.
lockdown experience for a similar haptic event. Nicodemus. I didn't get to talk about Nicodemus. I have to talk about the
No, you
Nicodemus
have talked
haptic
about
effect.
Nicodemus because that's
Okay.
what you brought this whole thing up on. But I just
Right.
got to say real quick, it is the LBEs are going to change because of headsets that are now computers without the need for backpacks. But anyway, Nicodemus, I want to hear about
All right.
Nicodemus.
So Nicodemus is this horror experience. They had built like a whole mythology with, I think it was a company that was bought by, the developer of the experience was bought by Microsoft, I believe, so they built it for the Void. But it was a different setup, for the other Void experiences a little bit. And I went through this on my own. I think I went into, I can't remember if I had a backup, on that particular one, but a horror experience at the World's Fair.
Oh
You're
my,
going to the
oh
old,
my.
like, turn of the century World's Fair that has been haunted by like a ghost. And like, I think it's ripped a hole in the universe and come into our universe at the
Okay,
World's Fair because of some like science experiment, I think
okay.
would be the idea here. And now you're going into the World's Fair with like, I think a flashlight or something. Like you've got to look around and get through this World's Fair with all these like old items, and it's got a very Bioshocky vibe, right?
Oh,
I think I've
nice.
already painted that picture, right? And now you've got a demon chasing you and coming after you, and like you look at it and comes at you out of the corner of your eye, terrifying. But the reason I'm bringing up this experience, it's so memorable. In addition to like the Marshmallow Man, that's all memorable all these years later. One of the things you have to do is you put your hand on a horizontal thing, like a table, right? It's just a little table out here because I can't see whatever it is. It's just flat. Put my hand on it, and it's using hand tracking, I think, if I recall. And a little diorama scale thing happens around my hand,
Okay.
with a character that comes out from the diorama on like a little clockwork mechanical thing. Like imagine a cuckoo bird
Yeah,
coming
yeah,
out of the
yeah,
cuckoo bird
yeah.
machine, but he's got a little axe in his hand. He's a little wooden character. And he comes out of this little thing with this little axe and goes boom right onto my wrist
Whoa.
with this little character right this. And the moment that this little thing comes down on my wrist, the table vibrates that I'm hand. So I've been hand tracking this whole time, like I don't have anything. And then suddenly I get this haptic effect at the moment this axe comes down
Oh,
on
wow.
my
Okay.
wrist. I think it's fair to spoil Nicodemus for our viewers out there,
I think
given
so. I
that it
mean,
is no longer in existence.
I was gonna say they're
Um,
not going to be doing it, so
yeah.
it's not
So
like you can go run down to your local void anymore, unfortunately. So
yeah. Well, all right. So, Arlen, that is you derailed us for a good
yes,
10 minutes there with your
but
Jumanji.
that's okay. It
But
was
we
a good
want it.
derail.
We definitely want it, right? Like
Yeah.
the Demio, you can imagine in Demio, it almost feels like they got the game board out, right?
Yeah, no, I mean that's why, and the back and full circle, the resizing of it, and I mean, the being able to place it in my space, it does. Now it feels like a game board. I can make it the size of a game board. I can make it bigger. I can make it smaller. So it works on so many levels, and
Yeah.
and I'm so glad to see games like Gears and Goo coming to Vision Pro, and the fact that that headset is now starting to become a platform for solid mixed reality gaming.
Well, it's interesting. So let's go back to Gears and Goo and talk about mixed reality game. What's so interesting about it is there's no use. Well, so there was a sandbox mode.
Hmm.
So you play through the game and you unlock all these towers and characters for the game, and then you go back to the main menu and you go to the sandbox, and it will do plane detection, recognize a solid platform, and then you can select that platform and then place the characters that you collected from the game out on the board. And
Okay,
I'm like, let's grab a character, let's grab a character. All right, I'm done. Let's get out of here. Right? That was the end of that mode, right? It entertained me for all of 20 seconds, and that was the most mixed reality that I experienced outside of just this resizing object. So, and that's where this gets really tricky, and what we want to think about in the future, long term for our audience. How does Vision OS, Horizon OS, Android XR, how do these operating systems evolve going forward to enable 4 or 5 of these like Unity type volumetric objects all around you? You can use eye tracking. There's no eye tracking on the Quest headsets right now to easily manipulate each of these objects. And then, how does your system also support all these windows you're going to have floating around you at any
right.
given time? Also, bring in another avatar or two so you could have a multiplayer experience. Maybe have multiple people gathered around some of these objects so you could play a multiplayer game like Demio. Maybe some of the objects are only one player. But right now, you can't do any of this on Vision OS. There is no multitasking like I'm describing. There's only a very specific class of application that allows this, and it is not Gears and Goo. And then over on MetaQuest, you've got a very different architecture
Oh,
for
big time.
multitasking. We'll get into that over on VR Download.
Oh yeah.
But I wanted to bring this up. We have to talk about it because I want to see things close to what Gears and Goo is like, whatever they can do on Vision Pro with hand tracking. Do it. We have regular viewers like Airspace Defender. That is, Airspace Defender is a very similar class of product overall to what Gears and Goo is, and it works pretty well without eye tracking. It's just, I don't know, tower defense is a little bit different of a game mode. Let's move on to our next subject.
Well, yeah,
Don.
definitely. So the next subject is one that I was destroyed because I wanted to play this game so bad when I first got home from CES, or before I even left, but I just didn't have time. And then, of course, I came home, deadly flu. So just finally got the chance to jump in last night for the first time, and I could not put it down. And the game is Arken Age. And wow. I mean, that's all I've got to say so far is wow. And I think if you read Henry's review on the site, he will second the wow. This is a game from Vitruvius, Blake Stone. I have been watching him grow since like 10 years now. In fact, I got kind of shout out to the developer of Arken Age, Blake Stone, gave me my very first voice acting job in a video game. So if you want a little history, there was a game called Mushroom Ball back in the DK2 days that evolved into a whimsical little platformer called Mervils. And my first original group, the VR Spies, I saw Caleb in the chat today. He was one of the original VR Spies. He came to us and we were the voices in the game. So it was 7 of the more popular YouTubers at the time. And I can't really do it because I'm really scratchy right now. But I was the sheriff and I was the Texas guy. Yeah. So watching his story, watching his journey coming from just being in college and wanting to learn how to develop and starting Vitruvius and getting on not App Lab, but I mean on Oculus Share at the time, and then seeing that game develop, and then of course he is continued in the industry, but Arken Age is kind of like watching that 10-year growth pinnacle. You see it all come together in this game, and the combat is satisfying. Now, if you're not familiar with the game, basically you're kind of on this transformed, terraformed world called the Biochasm, and there's a corrupting race called the Empyrean. They're a robotic race, and they're trying to destroy all the people on the planet, and you've got to go in there and save it. And you've got melee, you've got weapon combat, you've got crafting. I mean, there's just so much going on in here. The graphics are fantastic. The physicality of the game, like just the simple just flicking of your wrists like that, and all of a sudden you've got grappling hooks that you can climb surfaces with. It's just really. It seems like he's taken all the lessons over the last 10 years and really put them into this one labor of love, and I'm just digging it.
So, yeah, you mentioned Henry's review. I would definitely recommend go look at that. We've got it in the description for you to go check out that review. And we obviously post those timestamps after, so I'm referring to that
Yes.
after the fact. But yeah, go check out Henry's review on UploadVR.com to really see his breakdown of that game. And he was submitting the video. He was showing us
Mhm.
video from it and talking us through, and you can read him talking it through on in the article. But he really just loved the combat and
It was good.
how he
It's good.
described just this physicality that just clicked really, really well for him. And then you see these videos that just look so darn crisp. The
Mhm.
weapons just shining
Yeah.
uh, on the latest hardware. And I'm seeing in our comments people are having a lot of fun with it as well out
Oh
there.
gosh,
So
yes.
looks like that one is landing in the community very well right here in January, right after the Christmas deluge. I will just take an aside here to mention that Henry Stockdale is reaching out to developers across the
Yes.
board. He has already talked to quite a number of devs. And I've talked to some myself. I think Don has had probably some
Yes.
conversations himself. Various levels of what on the record, on background, off the record levels of conversations. Companies don't want to bite the hand that feeds them. So the devs out there, that they're very afraid of something they say being um, attached to them and getting marked bad in the eyes of Meta's executives or Meta developer relations because they've said something awful there. And the same is true of Sony as well, right? Sony is still out there doing things, and they don't want to you don't want to damage any developer, any platform relations. However, we're very concerned
Yes.
for the development studios out there that have large teams, even small teams that didn't get the sales numbers they were looking for over Christmas. This is the time when you are going through your books and starting to chart out what you're able to do over the course of the year with those sales. And we've already had some reporting on some layoffs that have happened as a result there. Um, I had I had a tour with Walkabout Mini Golf. I talked about it a little bit on VR Download because the tour
Mhm.
got published concurrent to us going live in the last VR Download. But go check out that tour with
It's a
Henning
good one.
Kachi of Mighty Coconut. And I talked to Henning on this tour, and I deleted it from the tour, so it's not included in the video that we published. But behind the scenes, talking with Henning, it was a very real conversation about why do I do these tours? Why do I highlight this? And I look at what they've done at that company, and they've gone from three, 1 to 3 people initially to now more than 30 people. And they've
Yeah.
done it on the sales of ever growing DLCs that they've built for VR. They've built the machine, right, that's now churning out every 6 weeks a new themed course that started construction a year ago, and now they're employing a couple dozen true artists of the medium, right? They build in Gravity Sketch. They port that work sometimes from hand-drawn sketches over to Gravity Sketch, and then from
Mm-hmm.
Gravity Sketch into this world. They spend months layering on textures and lights and getting and mixing them up so that you can't tell the difference between the two in the most magical ways possible. And then they tune each hole to absolute perfection. They add the physics for everything. They make sure the camera works for the whole thing. A year-long process for a couple dozen people.
Yeah.
And I'm not going to let those people lose their jobs without reporting on it and
Mm-mm.
understanding the reasons why that happened. Like, that's ultimately like the why I put such a light on that artistry and that work. And the same is true when Don talks about people like the developer behind Arken Age. We talk about the developer of Vertigo out there, Vertigo 2
Yeah,
and
all of our
Vertigo 1
developers. I
games.
mean,
Anton Hand over at Horseshoes, Hot Dogs, Horseshoes, and Hand Grenades with Rust and a couple colleagues over there building out that game over many years. This is a handful of stories. We've got Blair in a lot of our comments on some of our
mhm.
shows, struggling out there with lo-fi and his games that he's built over the years, trying to build a coalition and team of artists out there to get you together. And man, sometimes you don't have sales, so they're probably working for free
No,
sometimes
I
in
know,
various
and these are
ways,
these are
right?
passionate developers. I mean, they, like you said, a lot of times they are working for free, Ian, because they still have passion and drive for the medium.
Yeah, so
And
like this is real talk, right? Like,
this
so
is
this
real
is
talk.
real what's happening out there, and all these people want to do in many cases is build, make art that
Mhm.
means something to them and might make a couple other people out there laugh or enjoy themselves, maybe even cry for because of the beauty of the art. So that's we focus on artists. So Gears
Yes.
and Goo, Resolution Games, our first section here, that's a group of artists who put Gears and Goo out there together with Apple helping them fund that project for Apple Arcade. And I put it in our article. I'm saying it now. I want more Gears and Goo. I
I do
want
too.
Apple to go and fund more of that experience. I'd like to see more levels, a bigger thing. That was how good that was. And then Arken Age, Henry went and played that game through, and looking at his review score, he didn't say it in his review, but I'm reading between the lines as, please, I want more of this.
No,
And
God,
hearing you,
no.
Don,
Yes,
it sounds
yes.
like you're saying the same thing.
Reading his review got me excited to play the game before I even played the game, knowing what I was about to play, because I already kind of knew what I was about to walk into because I'm familiar with Vitruvius's work. And it is one of those and it does end on a cliffhanger-ish, that gives us the maybe more is coming, maybe not, but it's not as Henry put out. And I love, just unlike another game I killed myself in December to finish, only to find it was part one. They don't leave you hanging intentionally. It's not intentionally split. So, you'd still get a full story if you want to play Arken Age to beginning and to end. But, it definitely is going to leave you wanting more. And I can't wait to get there. I mean, just in the 2 hours that I played last night, I am already so sucked into this environment, these graphics. I mean, it just looks fantastic. It sounds fantastic. And one thing I haven't brought up, and I don't know if Henry really pushes it home, I am big for atmosphere and ambience and things. The music is just great. I could listen to that backtrack for hours on end, and it just keeps me serene and mellow and in the world, but fighting when I need to be. So it is one of those that I'm going to say, if you have a slot in your gaming library right now and you're looking for something good to play, you like shooters, you like melee combat, you want to mix them up, you like sci-fi overarching stories, could use a little more voice acting, just saying, but you got to check out Arken Age. And that's like based on just my 2 hours of play and Henry's full review. So,
And let's be clear, I've seen a couple comments on this. Don't work for free. Get
no,
paid for your work. But there are various exceptions to that
there
everyone
are.
will consider as soon as you get more into the weeds and start considering various things. But don't work for free is a
No,
very important rule just
it
to
is.
consider. I think I've got one credit in a VR game, and the credit is for backing Apollo 11
No,
back in the
nice.
day, and that's it. That's I
I
try to
loved
keep my
Apollo
distance
11.
from that development, but there are many instances where that credit in at the end of the game is all that it's a surprise, and it's like
Doesn't it make you heart? You just see it and you say, that
yeah.
just like, I don't know. God, man, now you're going to get me down
But let's
another
let's not
rabbit
get
hole.
into that. I just wanted
I was
to
going to
I
say,
wanted to echo the commenters, don't work for free. That's
no. You just said Apollo 11. And then I
yeah.
started thinking about all those wonderful, like documentary type space experiences like Apollo 11. Go for
Oh,
Launch Mercury, was another one. I know
there's so
Joe.
much think about it, like there's so much free material to pull from in the NASA
Oh, God,
archives,
there
right? And
is.
that's why you see so many great
Yeah.
experiences pop up based on all that material.
Oh, I'll never forget the opening of the Apollo 11 experience, and you're sitting in the little room watching the Kennedy speech on that little TV, and then all of a sudden it just gets bigger and bigger, and then next thing you're writing the gantry. Anyway, we could literally get completely derailed just talking about the space experiences. Uh, you
So
know,
Loco Freeman saying they bought H3 VR after watching Anton Hand's devlogs for ages. So much fun. Yeah, there's a fun mode in the latest
there is.
version. He built a like a trick you game, like messing with
Hmm.
you as you have to go through with you, and it just relentlessly torments you with word trickery over time.
Hmm.
And I think he's actually building that in cooperation with the community a little bit, coming up with like new ideas
Yeah.
for that game. And then, gosh, the things like there's a story there. There's a whole whatsoever. And it's meant hours and hours and hours of just pure, serene, uh, entertainment for lots and lots of people perennially over on Steam VR. And
Oh,
right, like
yes.
there's no this is I'm sorry to like repeat this. People who are regular viewers who know this game know these stories, but I have to constantly talk to those new people in our audience, the people that are going to get Arken Age, that should go get Arken Age because they're looking for what Don and Henry are saying is a fresh new game out, perfect for their libraries. But if you're on Steam VR, don't go forget, go get the original classics. Holy
Oh,
moly,
God.
there's
No, my God,
and
yes.
and and when I say original classics, H3VR is this game that's been out for almost a decade now,
Yeah.
with constant regular updates from a dev who's making hard artistic decisions.
And that's passion. I
Yep.
mean, that shows that passion, that when you can have that go for a decade of your life and you're still putting into it and you're still building on it. I mean, that is your passion. And when you have development teams, development individuals that have that passion, it shows. Real quick blurb, just because you mentioned Apollo 11, I said go for Launch Mercury. It's one I think we have some very light coverage. I'm planning to cover it a little more once it matures. Joe Chisholm, the developer of Go for Launch Mercury, has a new alpha called Intersolar 83 on Steam right now. It is like the beginnings of Elite Dangerous. You've got systems that are being completely procedurally generated, planets that you can land on. You're in this old 80s style spaceship. It is just wild. I'm loving it. Anyway, just a little side blurb, just showing the passion of single developers, the passion of people wanting to bring those projects to life in virtual and mixed reality. So,
I'm seeing some fire over there in the comments, so thank you for responding to us. I see
absolutely.
Jack's comment I'm thinking about here. Vincent van Gogh never sold a single painting, just saying, but I'm sure somebody paid his absinthe tab in gratitude.
I get that.
Interesting to think about.
That is. That is.
And my heart goes out to all the devs out there who have struggled over the years. And I guess, if you've sold a piece of hardware to get a new piece of hardware, I think I think there's a lot of people who feel that kind of pain in particular, right? Like, and like I wonder how many people in our audience, and you like, how many years has it been since you've been without an HMD? And would you ever be without
Who,
an
me?
HMD? Yeah, like,
Oh
is there
gosh,
any situation where you would sell
I have not
every
technically.
headset you own?
I have not. Well, I mean, yes. I mean, obviously, if it was to have to like I needed to support my family,
Yeah.
or
A
you
life-saving
know,
situation.
a
Okay, all right.
life-saving
Yeah,
situation,
fair. All
or
right. So outside that, I mean, I'm wondering.
I couldn't. It was hard. Okay, so like I have a personal story about that. I bought my DK1, and a lot of people don't know this, and this is something that Kyle. I mean, Jesus, I think Palmer even told me one time I ought to like write this down. I sold my blood to buy a DK1. And some people don't know that. Some people do. I literally went and pumped my fist in a plasma chair for 30 solid days to have enough money to buy that DK1. I didn't want to have to do that again when DK2 came out, so I sold my
Wait, 30 days.
DK1
So you're telling me to tell me what was the piecemeal? How
like
much?
twice a week for a month.
And
I went
you get
and
paid
you
per
get
blood?
paid per donation, right?
How much
Yeah.
was the payment per donation,
Probably
roughly?
like 50, $60 per,
$60 per
yeah,
plasma
yeah. Something like
for a
that.
month?
It took me about a solid month to earn the 300 and something dollars that I needed to buy my DK1. But it kind of goes back to, and I'm not talking about all that.
I paid in blood for my
No,
hardware.
I can truly say I have shed blood, sweat, and tears for VR, Ian. Okay, I'm true OG. But anyway, back to my story. It wasn't about the selling of the blood. I'm just saying that's how I got the money. I had to sell that DK1.
Oh wait, we just need to cut that sentence out, right? It's not about the blood. Okay, sorry. Go ahead.
I had to sell that DK1. So you were talking about having to sell a headset to buy a headset, and I did. I had to sell my DK1, and luckily I sold it at a profit. I actually made money on a used DK1, and that funded my DK2. And then I had to sell that DK2 to buy my CV1. And that's the last time I ever sold a headset. I said, I'm not going to do it anymore. These are my children. These are going to become
There it is. Yeah, and I get
collectibles.
it. Yep.
So I've gone back to Goodwill, which is weird, to shopgoodwill.com. You can find all sorts of amazing DK1s and DK2s, like mint condition, for like $30. So I bought a mint condition DK1 for $35 and a mint condition DK2 for about $50, and put them back in. And now I have my complete collection back, and I will never sell a headset again.
I do not have my DK1 and DK2. Those are holes in my collection.
Well,
I also
mine.
have. So here's the thing.
Hurts,
well, all right. So I've got this philosophy as far as like keeping this product. Like, if it doesn't work, it doesn't mean it's not worth keeping around.
Mm-hmm.
Or if you don't have an intention to keep it working. So yeah, last 24 hours or whatever, I had a MacBook around here that had a broken screen, and I removed the screen to make it a keyboard or a MacBoard.
MacBoard. I like the MacBoard. Yes, I like
I made a MacBoard out of an M1, right? So it's just the bottom board. And boy. I did that over the last 24 hours. But like, if I couldn't get this thing, like, I don't want this big broken screen on this thing. And now I've got a functional computer that fits with my system, so I can put it with my collection of other things. So like, I bring that up because of all the bricked Quest 2s that just happened, and other devices that have gone out of service. Like, I'm not keeping those things. I'm not keeping a brick around. I've got an Oculus Go somewhere that
actually,
the controller bricked on that. I think the headset works.
I don't have a Go. And look, I got to address this because now the chat's going wild here. Okay, no, I'm sorry. Maybe I misspoke. Plasma. Okay, yes, they put your blood back in. They don't keep the blood. You get the blood back. They just take the plasma and they make medicines out of it. And it's a great way for college students. And I mean, I've been doing that for like since college. It's just a way to make a little extra food money, especially if you live here in the United States of America, where sometimes you need extra food money. So,
all right, Don, do you have photos of you giving blood?
I do actually.
I want you to bring a photo into our future studio. We'll hand it off to Beck. And
I don't say that to because I do see people
giving plasma.
About it
sorry,
here.
we need to be more specific.
Not selling your blood, right? But I share that story, and sometimes when I share that story, I don't know. I'm antsy about it, because does it make me look bad? Does it make me look crazy that I wanted VR that bad? But the part of that story that I think a lot of people don't remember is that I have been in VR since 1997, and I did take out student loans that I just recently paid off to buy my first VFX One and eyeglasses, which were the Vive and the Rift of their day. So I watched VR rise and fall in the 90s, and I watched all of these wonderful developers back then, rise and fall because the technology just wasn't there to support them and their visions. And now we're kind of seeing the reverse. The technology is here, but the tools aren't. And so I don't know, it's just a lot of parallels. And I don't know why I felt the need to share that story, but I just decided I should.
Well, I mean, it is indicative, and I want to see those photos because you're literally illustrating my point here, I guess.
Mhm.
That this is, doing this, making it through the time in this market is not easy. People have made sacrifices, done very hard things, and giving plasma is probably not the worst one, right?
It's
Like that's
not,
not, it
because
is.
it
It's
helps people. It does help people as well. I mean, you're helping burn patients, cancer patients. I mean, they make medicines out of this. They save
mm.
people's lives with it. So whether you do it for a little extra chump change to buy your next headset, or whether you do it to help people, it's still something that you might look into. It's important.
So that's our long-winded way of saying support artists, see
Yes.
the intent in what they do, understand when they miss that intent. You don't have to comment on it necessarily, right?
Yeah.
Like you'd only need to comment on it uh, if it makes sense. But like,
Yeah.
there's not a lot of times it makes sense to just let bad art die, right? Like
No.
let it go by the way. The easiest way you can amplify bad art is to talk about it a
Yeah.
lot.
Yeah.
Um,
Call it out.
so like, like I get both desires to kind of call out bad art, but like we only do it occasionally here. And it's one of the themes of what we do is like there's so many good artists that we could be spending our time on just trying to understand their intent and what they were trying to do
So
and
many.
get that in front of more people.
So many.
All
So
right. We ready to do our last subject
I
here?
think I think it's time to transition. We're definitely not going to make that hour, but that's okay because this has been awesome. I
This
am so
conversation
happy
got
to
dark.
be
Yeah. Oh
back
man,
talking. Well,
there's
I'm
gonna
just happy to be back talking to you and everybody in the studio. So, but the big subject. What was I doing all week last week? Well, it was a long week, guys. Let me tell you. For an old fat guy like me, it's boy, I tell you what, those floors can get brutal. But I am glad that we made the trip because we did see some really cool stuff while we were out at CES. Now, the big question that I've been getting is was it bigger than last year? Was it smaller? Because I do tend to go to CES every year, and it has tended to kind of dwindle just a little bit. I didn't see as many of the knockoffs and clones of AVP as we did, at CES 2024. What I did see, though, is I did see a lot of our favorite companies really honing everything into more gaming focused. So it was kind of nice to see some gaming focus at CES. So kind of starting off here, I threw together just some little highlights here on for Stevie, but it may not even kind of correspond with what I'm going to talk about. But some of the booths that really kind of blew me away, not blew me away, but blew me away. I'll start out with B Haptics. Love anything haptics. I love anything that's going to take us deeper down the rabbit hole of immersion. Now, my personal experience with their hardware is, I have the original tack suit. I mean, like the OG, the very first one that they came out with. And that one, I mean, it's kind of rigid, it's bulky, I got to the point where did I really want to suit up every time I wanted to play, and it got to the point where it was no, and mostly because the vest was just too rigid and it got heavy and hot. And so seeing their new hardware for the first time really showed me that they've refined a lot over the years. I mean, they've really taken to heart all of the user feedback about those things that I just mentioned. The vests are now super light. The materials are way flexible. You have the control right now, right? You can control the level of haptic right from the vest, so you're not having to unsuit and run across and change settings and things like that. But the one thing that I had not played with from them was tack gloves. So I have very little experience with haptic gloves. And so this was a kind of a breath of fresh air, in a way, to put those gloves on and just be able to feel the most basic tactile sensation. So, you mentioned when you were talking about Nicodemus and the little guy and the cutting of the wrist, just to feel that bzz right when that happened, that adds something. And it is something that I didn't know I was missing until I felt it. And my brain wanted it more. So as I'm doing the Starship repair demo, there's several points in that where you got to put your hand under, you feel the liquid, and but there was a couple of points where I had to actually reach forward and pinch on like a marble type object. And the pads in the fingers of the gloves being just spaced just right, and then that little bit of sensation made me have a true moment of presence for a split second because I pinched it and it wouldn't let me put my fingers all the way together because I was feeling the pads in the fingertips and then the buzz. And all of a sudden, the next thing I know, I'm holding this marble and my brain is going, oh my God, dude, you're holding this virtual marble because you're feeling it. So I don't know.
Interesting.
It was a different experience.
Did you put the one that I edited last night, the 4-minute one?
I have not done the
in
Mudra
this?
Band. We'll talk
Okay.
a little bit about the Mudra Band, and then we're going to try to get that out. I got to talk to you about that edit.
Okay.
but the B haptics, that was great. So again, just even the simplest tactile sensation, just the simplest little haptic buzz really changed something in my brain. And so moving on from that, I wanted to talk about a different glove that I came across because the B-Haptics gloves was neat, but it still is all hand tracking. So you're still going to have to, if you're playing a regular type game, have some sort of controller in your hand. I mean, because we know we're not there for FPS. We're not there for, I'm not going to be playing Half-Life Alyx completely hand tracked right now. I mean, there's just no way to really pull that off. Okay. So I came across another booth, and this is a company I had not heard of called Diver X, and they were showing some really interesting tracking stuff. They had some tracked controller samples where they put like their lighthouse tracking rig on the end of this, but it's actually camera based, and it was tracking really well. But then we got to the gloves, and what I loved about their gloves is it actually had a controller built onto the glove that was fully customizable and positionable, so you could get it right there where you wanted it. So you had that hand track, like I'm in gloves feeling, but at any time I still had my sticks up here and I had some buttons that I could interact with. So it was a beautiful meshing of the haptic glove and a controller, giving me the best of both worlds and everything that I would want out of that solution currently being used in Steam VR, playing a high-end FPS, playing a flight simulator, something like that, because it really felt like my hands were still open because the controller was attached to the glove itself. So
Interesting. Very, very interesting. I saw Arlen is talking about Lord Grey Dawn out there. So if you're a new viewer out here, Dawn typically has pigment. He typically has
I do. I see
texture.
it right there.
And we see it. We're shown in our own personal realities how Dawn wishes to appear, which is, he's got glasses on, he's got gray eyebrows, gray hair, black shirt. That's great. That's Dawn. But unfortunately, or fortunately, depending on your faith, Grey Dawn has been sent from somewhere else to this place to be messenger to us about what is like outside of this
Yes.
place. So
Yes.
that's what we have right now. And we have until March to put new avatars into this studio. So David Heaney built this studio a couple of years ago and he's updated it. But we have so much news to cover. We've been unable to really add the newest features quickly, but we have a deadline of March before Meta basically takes these avatars out to the old Yeller Shed.
The old Yeller Shed.
And and then replaces them with new avatars that we're going to need to have. And what that means is when that happens, Grey Dawn should return back to whence he came,
Yes.
and we won't be able to get him back, right? Like, so we will have to summon him somehow in the future. Like, he might appear, but once he's gone, he's gone. So enjoy Grey Dawn while he's
Yes, and
here.
enjoy it, and blessings be upon all of you today. Thank you. Blessings from VR to you. So, last thing I wanted to say, real quick, about the Diver X. It was also one that kind of blew my mind in the fact that maybe they were just in the penultimate spot for their booth, but every booth that I went to had massive tracking issues with wireless signal interference. Those gloves tracked really well, even on the show floor of CES. So that blew me away. I am in talks with DiverX right now. They should be sending us some review samples soon. So look for more coverage of DiverX coming up on Upload.
Yeah, so we've covered Grey Dawn and the way Grey Dawn gave plasma out of his arm,
To buy
straight
VR.
up. Yeah, and I like the
Yes.
plasma, right? Because that makes it sound more
Like sci-fi.
cyberpunk, right?
Yeah, I think it sounds more Star Trek, Like
Yeah.
I got some warp plasma for you.
We need to go get some plasma from Don over there. We need to keep this guy going. All right.
All right. So moving on. So you had asked about this one, so we'll go ahead and cover that. I'm probably out of sync on the video, but that's okay. Just keep it looping there back. So the Mudra Link is what it is. It's a neural wristband controller for augmented reality and virtual reality. And obviously, we know another company that has recently shown a wristband controller in conjunction with AR. Now, I talked to the Mudra guys that's not what they're after right now. They're not trying to copy the Orion band in any way, shape, or form. They're going for something completely different. And I got to say, it was a pretty cool demo. Okay. So the booth was set up. They had different stations. Unfortunately, the AR glasses were the waveguide prototypes from TCL. They would not let me put them on. So for that part of the demo, I did have to rely on them. But for the band demo, the things that really stood out was this. When I put my fingers together, they were pressure sensitive. So like, the harder I squeezed, you saw that thing go up. And I got to a point where I could actually really, really fine tune how much pressure I was applying. Now, I thought, okay, this is probably some sort of a gimmick. It's probably just, it's measuring like, my skin or some twist of my muscles. So then Ariel, who was giving me my demo, comes over and he says, hey, let me show you something cool. And he says, stick your finger out like this. And he was showing me how I could tap and I could see the neural signal on the screen. Now he goes, now watch this. And he grabs my finger and pushes it down. Nothing's on the screen. Pushes it down. Nothing's on the screen. Now he goes, takes his hand away, says, now you do it. I push it down. Boom, boom, boom. So it is really actually measuring the neural input. It is not measuring muscle contraction. It's not measuring a skin change. That they are actually pulling those electrical signals, and that means that it's only going to pick up on you. You're not going to have any sort of weird interference like that.
So I really I need to pause you there because this demo was really important to me and to viewers, and I want to make sure that our viewers really process the importance of pressure sensation here, right? So Meta has this wristband that they've had in development. We got to see Mark Zuckerberg wear it in a very similar demo, honestly, to what you just witnessed with this the band used in your video. But Zuckerberg is wearing this wristband and then showing an interface over there and trying to basically move through it using little gestures right here that are being recognized as it moves through the band. Now, Apple Watch obviously does a bunch of stuff with sensors at the wrist. We've seen, you talked about it in your video, but Wow Mouse, and I've got the Tap XR band that I've been messing with here. This is not like, there's a lot of things in this space, but what your video really did was break down some of the underlying technologies that are going to be really key for anyone in our audience who wants to move on to hand tracking based interfaces across glasses and
Well,
headsets.
and
So
and some things I found interesting. You mentioned Apple Watch. I mean, that's kind of where these guys started. Was Ariel mentioned that their first product was geared around Apple Watch, very similar to like Wow Mouse is doing with the Samsung watches or the Android watches. One of the things that I really found interesting though was not just the pressure sensing. You mentioned the Tap XR band as well. At one point in the demo, in the interview, he talks about the ability to wear two. One, your right hand being the mouse, your left hand being the keyboard. So if you had two of these, you could then now have a completely wireless functional mouse and keyboard system that has no physicality to it whatsoever.
So yeah, right now I've got an Apple Watch over there. I grab the Apple Watch, put it on this wrist, and then launch the Wow Mouse app, and I'm controlling a mouse cursor on a big window right
Mm-hmm.
here. So I'm suddenly controlling, but the key, this falls apart when I try to click.
Yes.
I can have it click, but it will not seem to recognize like a hold of a window.
Yes. I have
And
that
that's
problem
the
too
difference, right?
on
So
and
like
Samsung. So it's cross platform. That's the same
so
thing.
so the idea here is you're in a VR headset like a
Mm-hmm.
Quest or an Apple Vision headset, and you've got faced with this giant desktop right in front of you, or maybe three windows of your little PC over here. That's just a keyboard, a whole computer inside of a keyboard, and now you've got this giant desktop floating above you. And now you take your arm, and a little movement of your arm moves a mouse
Mm-hmm.
cursor across, or maybe even your fingers moves a mouse cursor across this giant screen, and then you click or some, I don't know what the gesture is going to be, but I like this one
Mm-hmm.
where you click, but like on this current interface with the Wow Mouse, I'm able to click so I can close a window. But what I really want to do is just a little bit of a pressure click, a
Yes.
slightly stronger click. Grab that window and move it to another spot on desktop. I want to do it to another window and move that over. I want to do it to another, and I'm not showing it to you. You watched me think this through, but like, here's a click, here's a pressure click. Like here's a simple click, here's a hard click. And you can't see the difference, but my fingers certainly feel it.
Yep.
And if the signals going through are accurately recognized to do the difference between just holding, the normal click and the hold click, then we're in business for
Oh yeah.
like
And Ian,
exactly what
it
Don is
was
saying. And I have the
that
Tap
pressure
XR as my
sensitivity.
keyboard. Yeah.
No, I was going to say that pressure sensitivity was accurate. That was the one thing that truly blew me away. I mean, if I just barely touched it, that line would just go up. And I did get to the point where I could actually like keep it exactly where I wanted. So, I mean, you could set multiple levels of pressure. It is insane what you could do with that pressure sensitivity.
Yeah, Jack is talking about prostheses,
Mm-hmm.
prostheses. I'm not sure the prosthetics over there that are some of the latest ones now, and getting direct sort
Oh,
of
wow.
input from
Yes.
nerve impulses is the very end there. If you want to read a really crazy paper, go find the paper about the person who was locked in completely. I don't think they could. I can't even remember if they could move their eyes. I don't think they could move their eyes. That's how, and they were conscious, locked
Mm.
in to
I
their
couldn't even
body.
imagine.
Yeah, it's very, very hard to imagine. And then they learned how to build a computer system to talk to the person inside of their body
That's
and have that
insane.
person able to communicate one piece at a
That was
time,
so cool.
being trained. The person's being trained and training a computer at the same time to communicate out of that locked in state. It's wild that is where we are.
Mm-hmm.
I was just in conversation. We got a video that popped up at CES. You didn't see did you see the wheelchair that was
I saw the wheelchair the video that you linked in
yeah,
our
well,
group chat, and I got to tell you, I showed that to my wife. I showed that to my mother-in-law, who is an amputee, and not by her arms, but she's an amputee of the legs. But to see that man with no arms be able to just put on a Vision Pro and have complete freedom of movement, and it almost like made me start crying.
yeah, it was
Like
very much
just
So I got an email from the company. Yeah, so it was very,
Yeah.
very powerful video to see this concept played out. But it was just a concept. I got this detail from them that they're aiming for sometime in 2026 for this
Hmm.
wheelchair that can be controlled with eye movement, and that was the concept that they showed on
Yeah.
Apple Vision Pro, was this idea that you could look at things and go to them, and also there's the joystick control, and there would be
Well,
person
didn't it also have like
avoidance.
voice? Like you could literally like tell it where you wanted it to go, and then the chair would like take you there.
I can't remember, but
Pretty sure it
honestly,
did.
like like it's important here.
Yeah.
We didn't test this
No,
ourselves,
we did not.
and
No,
it
this is
was
just a video.
and in the email to us when I sought more info, it was just they were clear it was just a concept, but you can see where this is going, right? We are very close to the
We are.
reality, like 5 years out here of um, language no longer being a barrier between two people on the street, right?
Oh,
Like you
mind
could
control. I
you
mean,
you you look you see what they're saying right in front of your eyes in your language. That
mhm,
is, we're close. We're
we're
really,
getting
really
there.
close, and this same technology we're using for VR is going to get us there. And yeah, it's wild to think about that. Like people, those videos are the ones that change minds out there
Mhm.
around VR.
No, it really does. I mean, there's just so much going on. That's an area I really wish that I could have explored more while I was at CES, is some of the breakthroughs in some of the immersive medical technologies. I know there was one set of new AR/AI glasses that were geared towards helping people see, who are almost completely blind. I mean, there was just so many cool demos that you just don't have time to get to. But it is some of the more exciting uses of this technology that we all know and love and use every day. So,
Yep. So you can imagine the band we saw with the Orion. We saw the Meta band for Meta
mhm,
version of this technology at Meta's recent event. It was you. We didn't wear the band. We have an article though on
right,
uploadvr.com that we edited and went through with the developer who did wear the band, and have a whole. We have video of him testing it,
right.
but he puts his arm behind his back and starts doing the pinches back there, and it affects the interface. And
Yeah.
that's absolutely critical
I did
to
that with
imagine
Mudra as
across.
well. Yeah, I put it up my side, I put it behind my back. I mean, it is EMG. So, I mean, it's not going to be reliant on being seen by a headset or an external source. It's tracking your electrical pulses. So,
Yeah. So there we've got I love that one. Is that the last one of CES that you've
no, no,
got in
no,
there?
no. We've got a couple more. I saved the headsets. Obviously, I did some gaming in them. So, we were trying to kind of focus this more around gaming. But I mean, obviously, and I'm sure you guys will talk more about it on download. There was actually a joke at the beginning of the show about if they asked us about headsets, that we would just say, oh, no, just come back to download on Thursday for that. But since people have been hounding me for the last week, I have got to get this off my chest. So, yes, Pimax. I went to the Pimax booth as always. They had some amazing simulators set up. A couple of different companies came in this year. I do not know the company names off the top of my head, and I'm not going to butcher them, but they had flight simulators, they had driving simulators, all of these set up with their Crystal Super headset. Crystal Super was, definitely something that a lot of people were asking me to try while I was out there, especially those of you who are into the higher end simulation market, because that is really where those types of headsets shine, is your DCS, your Microsoft Flight Simulator, things like that. So after getting to their booth, I got my first taste of the Crystal Super in a flight simulator playing DCS, as you may or may not see. I don't know how our timing is going on the video here, probably completely off. But um, in that simulator, a couple of things that hit me right off the bat about that headset. It is super crystal clear. No pun intended. I actually talked to a doctor that they had working the booth. He talked about how the PPD is very, very close to human PPD. Um, I think the thing that really blew me away in it was the lighting. I I'm literally flying towards the sun, feeling I need to put on a pair of aviators. It was so bright from that sun. I thought I had to. I needed sunglasses. Now, that's all the good. I mean, it's great. It looks crystal clear. The lighting is on point. They also had this thing running at 85% graphics. So I didn't even see it at 100%, and it looked that good. But here's what killed it for me immediately. Some of the worst edge blurring I have seen in a long time. And, I kind of was hoping that this is something that Pimax could have really solved prior to bringing a headset like that onto the show floor, because it's not a good look when you see these beautiful crystal clear graphics right there in the center and then just a blurry mess out in your peripheral. It just kills the entire effect for me. I also saw some interesting Mura that it's almost, I want to call it Mura, but maybe it wasn't. I don't know. I only noticed it when I would look at clouds or bright white, but it was almost like there were crisscrossing lines that you could see in the display. Very faint. You had to strain to look for them, but as a reviewer, as a person who tests headsets, these are the things that I'm going to look for. So is this going to be the same experience for everyone who puts one of these on their head? No. I mean, I had a completely different experience with their 8KX, where a lot of people said that they saw heavy distortion. I didn't, so it really is going to be a per user experience. But after talking with the team, I didn't bring up anything they weren't already aware of. Now this is, a sample that they were using, DBT sample. So is it going to be better in what you get? Possibly. Is it something that I feel comfortable right now taking a chance on? Not really. I would really like to see them, as they do with most of their headsets, get a little more maturity out of the PiPlay software and see if they can fix some of those distortion issues.
Yeah, they'll be shipping new headsets by the time they fix those issues.
And there's that too. We did talk about Reality 12K. I pressed them. Where is Reality 12K? They say it is not. It is not canceled in any means. I will have. We have a full edit. We have a full interview that still needs to be edited. Please bear with us, guys, on all the CES coverage. Getting the flu was not on my bingo card coming home.
Yeah,
and it was so bad I couldn't even write. I couldn't even get out of bed.
I remember talking to you, Don, beforehand. And if Kyle is watching out there, and please repeat it over in our channel for this afterwards. One of us needs to do. But David, I do recall David went to CES one year with a mask. And it was like an expensive filtered mask.
Yeah, I'm
and
gonna
he
get
came
one
back
next time.
with it. He came back from CES without getting sick, and I've gotten sick at CES. And when it's when you're home and not traveling much for a couple months, and then suddenly you're exposed to that many people, it seems inevitable. And I'm so sorry that you went through that.
Were the Coke bottles real at the Pimax booth? Yes, Arlen. The Coke bottles were absolutely real. There was no anomalies in those Coke bottle renders whatsoever. So I did ask them, obviously, about Dream Air, and they were not very forthcoming on a lot of the details. They did apparently have the optical engine there. I did not get a chance to see it. But according to Pimax, Dream Air is a thing. We will see a non-render of hopefully soon. That's the best I can say about that.
For context, there, we don't really recommend Pimax headsets. We have a lot of reporting in our backlogs of just them having trouble delivering on their promises, having reports of poor customer service. And if you're in the United States in particular, right, you're kind of out of luck in many respects of getting service and help for your problems. However, there is a small vocal group of hardcore simulator users who will put up with the distortions that you talk about in order to have whatever it is out of the particular Pimax model that we're talking about at the moment, whether it's resolution or field of view.
Mm-hmm.
Sometimes people will take that.
I will say I was prior and still sort of am. I love my Pimax headsets for my simulators. You know, when I'm in my motion sim and I'm flying Microsoft Flight Simulator 2024, it looks fantastic. I mean,
Is
it's
that on an
definitely
increased field of view one?
that is on the Crystal, so it is not on the increased field of view one.
Okay.
That the original Crystal, see, when the Crystal came out, it had a lot of the same problems that I'm talking about with Crystal Super right now. Well, give them 6-7 months, and then they finally get their software right, and then they finally tweak this, and you get a firmware update here and a firmware update there, and then finally you get the headset that you paid for. This is
Yeah.
typical Pimax fashion. So it's not one of those headsets that I ever tell people when a new Pimax headsets drop, don't run out and buy it right off the bat. You're going to be in for a world of hurt for a little while. But if you're willing to wait and you do currently want something that's going to be what's considered high end, high resolution, you know, high frame rate, they're going to get you where you want to be. The one thing that I stick with them for on simulators is they have built-in motion compensation, and that opens up a whole another can of worms that's specific to people who use motion simulators. But you know, it is a good sim headset. You just got to wait for them to get it where it needs to be for it to be the headset that you actually purchased.
And it might not do that.
And it might or might not, right?
And that's we our recommendation. So again, we don't recommend. There are still the people that go. Like Don's giving you the reasons why some people do, but we generally do not recommend based on the track record here. And you know, we're open to them delivering and changing that reputation
Absolutely.
over time, but
Absolutely.
we're going to need to rely on sort of reports from our audience and people who buy those headsets. And right now, the story isn't great. Also, just you talked about like. This has been slow brewing for years, but Apple Vision Pro and Big Screen Beyond. So Big
Okay.
Screen Beyond is a $1,000 PC VR headset with the slimmest design on the market by a wide margin. But you got to go get the laser base stations, you got to go get the controllers, and get everything lined up for it. And then you've got a wired PC experience after all of that, which not a lot of people want. But the reason I mention it is that's $1,000 and custom fitted for your face.
Yeah.
Apple Vision Pro accommodates that they sell a whole bunch of face sizes for the actual face facial interface that you put on based on the shape of your face. And then you put on prescription lenses to help you with your specific optics. And every time you like set up the headset, it auto changes the distance of the displays to put them exactly in front of your eyes where they should be. And on a face like mine, it's really, really important that each of those displays changes and minutely changes where its position is by just a few millimeters, different from the other side of my eye in order to line them up perfectly for the way my eyes perceive depth. Every other headset, Pimax, Quest, all the way down the line, does not do this type of calibration and this type of custom fitted for your face optics. There are a lot of people trying to build up all of this right now. Like there's some trying to get there, but I bring all this up because we've got our VR download show. Go tune in to David and I as we dive into these hardware topics in depth. We'll continue a lot of the conversations Don and I had in here, but we'll get into some of this stuff. But it's just so important that you understand here that, like, I would rather see people go and get a Quest, which has support behind it, or go even try out a Big Screen Beyond if you've got the budget to go and try what a light headset is, but be ready to return it if it doesn't like fit your face right, it doesn't have the right stuff for you. Or go to an Apple store and try an Apple Vision Pro and see what it looks like when everything is locked in exactly right. You know, get the everything treatment for that in-store demo, and then look around and go, okay, this is how it works. This is hand tracking, eye tracking, a movie playing on an OLED screen in super high resolution. and then you can understand the whole market of availability right here, right? Like you
Yeah.
can start to get a premise of, okay, if I don't have the eye tracking and I'm at $300 with a
Hmm.
Quest 3S, am I still happy? Like
Yeah.
you can't make that mind up. You can't have that unless you go and try that Apple Vision Pro out first
Oh
at
yeah,
a
no,
store.
Ian, you're preaching to the choir, my friend. I mean, lighter, smaller, custom. Now that kind of segues perfectly into another headset that I actually finally got to try. I know it's one that David is also working on his impressions piece of right now, and that is the Shiftall Meganex Superlight 8K. And
Thanks for tuning in, Gamertag. See you later.
hey, gamertag. Oh man. But yeah, the Superlight 8K, and this was an interesting headset. So it's got the small, it's got the lightweight, it's got everything that you just mentioned, but it's not customized to your face in a way that it comes that way from the factory. What they've done is they have put so many points of customization onto the headset that you dial it in yourself. So, I mean, they've got eye relief. They've got even they've got a knob where you can actually angle the forehead pad so that it gets the screens just in the right angle. But that brings up a point. So the first time I put that headset on was in a private demo in their hotel suite. It had almost, and I don't know how to say this, too much adjustability. It was like there were so many points of adjustment that it made the whole headset feel kind of flimsy and very, very not solid on my face. And, once you got it locked in and once you got it, strapped to where you wanted it and everything, you could do the shake test. It would move around a lot and it was good, but it was just getting it there. So there is utility in, like you say, these custom form fitted headsets that I can see that. Now, going into the headset, same thing. It crystal clear, super crystal clear, bad edge distortion. So it just seems like that edge distortion right now in this new generation of headsets is the nut to crack.
Yeah, I keep thinking back to our Pimax discussion, just how we address new VR users, because we have a lot of silent, long time VR users. People who go back to the '90s, like you, are
Hmm.
out there. I've tried VR headsets in the '90s too, right? Like as a kid in the mall. And
Oh, it's
lots of
horrible.
people in our audience have those experiences, and gosh, there's certain like if you're in that crowd of, I'm ready to bug fix my PC, you're in that crowd. We're not really addressing you so often. It's all those other people that like need to get into this for the first time, trying to
Hmm.
understand what the heck is all this, and they're just like trying to piece this together one step at a time. I think I'm gonna go out and say it now. I'll probably repeat this on download, but 2025 is going to be the year that minds change about
I
VR.
believe I believe it will be. I
Um,
mean, we're finally there. I think that everything is, and we say this all the time. I mean, 2024 is the year, 2023 is the year, but no, Ian, I don't know, something feels different about this year. It's like
yeah.
after coming back from CES, after seeing and having conversations with hardware companies and game developers recently, there's a buzz that's starting, and I think other people are starting to feel it as well.
Yeah, and I think that's a good moment to kind of just make a pitch for my team and for you all to become members to support
Absolutely.
this team. I've been working with Don here for about a year, and he is still learning. I think you'd
I
say that
am.
every time, right?
I
Like, yeah,
am.
but he is becoming incredible at asking the right questions and
Well,
getting
thank you.
them out of our audience out there, right? Like, it's hard to come up to a dev and get them to like the dev doesn't know how to summarize their
Exactly.
story. The engineer doesn't necessarily know how to speak to our audience. It takes practice to figure out, okay, how do I help this person kind of explain themselves
Hmm.
a little bit better? And so Don's doing an incredible job in so many of his videos, and we're learning how to process hours of footage and get it out, just the chunks that you, our audience, really need.
God, how much
Henry
was it?
Stockdale, what was that?
No, I was gonna say, how much was it? Was it? it filled my hard drive. It was
Yeah, you had a weird number on it. It was very scary.
no, it was
What was it?
230 some odd gigs worth of video that
Yeah,
we had to sift through.
and it's funny because we're all filling up our quests, right? Like I'm
Yeah.
filling up my headset, I'm filling up my Vision Pro. We've hit the marker of like storage limit for in VR footage, and now we need a way to like store all that footage on a drive. And all right, so Henry Stockdale is out there covering all of the games, and he's got a great team of freelance writers working with him, getting stuff covered. And then, like we've covered today on today's show, we covered Arken Age, and had that incredible review where he broke down why that's so appealing right now. And then David Heaney and his hardware analysis and expertise, breaking down in depth how this stuff functions. And as time goes on, Don, and as I'm saying, like 2025 is the year that VR changes minds. You have been on this journey with us, and we're we went, gosh, 2018 Oculus Go, right?
Hmm.
Was a cool device. Gear VR was a cool device. Oculus Rift was a cool device. Odyssey, cool device. Vive, they're all cool, right? But now we're at looking at like 200 to $300,
Oh yeah.
and you have even 100 is starting to look within like you could go to a used
Oh,
store
easily.
and get a device that is still running modern software and be up and going in standalone VR, right? And that's different than
Yeah.
what has happened in every iteration of this beforehand. And yeah, I think things are cooking this year that are going to change a lot of minds, I think,
I
about
really think they
VR.
are, Ian. I think that we're going to see explosions in mixed reality in 2025. We're going to see more bigger players coming back, and going, okay, no, the market is now becoming what it needs to be. So
Yeah, Onakazi says feels about the same as every CS. Wow, look at all the advances and stuff
this
that's
is true.
coming. Then 8 months later, half the stuff doesn't materialize, and the rest was a concept car versus reality. So years ago, you'll see the Panasonic glasses. We could probably pull up the photo pretty
Yes.
easily
Oh
here.
yeah.
But there was me in the Panasonic glasses. I used that as my profile picture for a while. But it's the mechanism that Apple is shipping to reposition the IPDs in front of
Hmm.
my eyes, but it's a mechanical one that you just rotate right in front. You just rotate this little thing, and it would get the IPD right. It would put these lenses right in front of your eyes. Wouldn't independently do it for each eye, but it was
Right.
still really, really cool. But you put those things on, and people look at it and go, "Ooh,
Oh, that was the
maybe,
thing. Yeah,
yeah."
mechanical IPD was like every one of the most. I'm gonna say most of the headsets that I tried was like, oh, now press this button, and you could hear, bzzz, and then it would like just set, and it was magical. I
But
mean, and
so our headline on that. So on this subject, I didn't mean to, sorry to
no,
interrupt you,
no,
Don.
no, no, the same.
Our headline on that subject on the Panasonic glasses, when I wrote about it at the time, really cool concept that was missing a platform to run it on. It
Hmm.
was missing an operating system, and it was missing like a input. It was missing everything you needed, the content that you were actually going to do on this thing. Well, here we are 4 or 5 years later from whenever I tried that thing, and only now, 2025, is Android XR really ready to potentially be that kind of platform for a bunch of
Oh,
the things you saw at CS this
yeah.
year. But they still have to ship. They might not ship for a variety of reasons.
And it couldn't be. I was going to say, actually, this is kind of interesting. My good friend Eric Hartley, practically my best friend in the whole world, Eric Hartley, is in the chat right now, and he said that the Panasonic headset that you tried is actually what the Megan X became. So,
Yep, yep, yep. And we're not holding our breath on any of these these also ran headsets actually
but
shaking the world apart. Like there was a time where David on our VR download was pointing out links, and we kept
okay, links,
repeating
yeah.
again and again, "This is really interesting. This is really interesting," but only if it ships within a certain period of time.
Mhm.
And that time elapsed for them, and it lost its competitive edge. And that's, again, like, that's some of what we see at CES. We see the ideas that if they ship on the right time, yeah, it'd be great, but
and that is
not
true.
if it
Now,
ships 3 years later.
the thing that I wanted to push back on, I've been trying to get in, is that one thing that felt a little different for me, and this is like my fifth CES. One thing that felt a little different to me is that it was a smaller, more compacted AR VR area, but every product and every booth that I went to did not give me the feeling that this is something that may or may not ship. Like the headsets that I tried, a lot of the tech that I tried while I was out there are, yes, we are shipping in March. We are expected to ship in February, So, I mean, these are things that have already made it past Kickstarters. They've already made it past. They are in production. Whether they're meeting that goal or not, that's still to be said. But I don't think that I saw anything that I would actually consider vaporware this year.
Yeah. All right. Well, did we have anything else? I think that's it for CS.
We had a couple more things that I could quickly go through, or we can wrap it. I mean, the last things here, I just wanted to say, back to the Shift-All, the headset was interesting. It was very lightweight. It was very clear. It was very comfortable once you finally got it on your face. The Shift-All controllers, however, I know a lot of people liked them. I didn't. They just felt bulky, and just like I constantly had this feeling of weight strapped to my hands. Shift-All did have another little interesting controller add-on that they were launching at CES, where it's going to be a little puck that you can kind of connect to your existing Quest controller that gives it a scroll wheel and a couple of extra buttons for more productivity use. And then their tracking solution was pretty solid for VR chat. The last thing that I had on my list here was one that we are still finishing up the review on, and that is coming soon. We had most of it, but I now have some things to add after meeting with them at CES, and that is RotoVR. So the RotoVR chair is interesting, and it's interesting in a couple of different ways, in the fact that it's a chair that you need but don't need. I don't know. It's a spinning chair that tracks to your head, and you get it, and you first think, man, oh my God, this is going to be the greatest, coolest thing in the world for playing driving games and flight games, and I'm going to be flying that plane, I'm going to feel those haptics, and it's going to spin when my plane does, until the first time that happens and you realize that there's this little magical piece of software that's missing called motion compensation, and you spin, and then, well, the plane stays over here, but now I'm looking out the side window. So that is something that I talked to the team about. That is something that they are actually in the process of developing in-house right now. I can't really say a lot more about it, but it is for anybody who has purchased or is looking to purchase a Roto chair. Please read the review that we will be dropping shortly on Upload. We're in the final edits right now. Before you buy the chair, there are some comfort issues with it. I did not personally find it the most comfortable, but at CES, they did show me the new chair back, the new HOTAS tables, the new, productivity table. So those things could make it a little more comfortable. But at the end of the day, I don't know, jury's still out. So,
Beck, are you still out there in our ear? I
haven't heard Beck in a while.
I don't know. I heard her activate her keyboard, so she came to life. We activated her out there in Canada. We've got a couple members in our audience today, and as we finish off this show, I wanted to ask whether Beck and Don, it would be possible for us to try a quick member show right after this. Do you think we could maybe try a video right after this just for members?
Yeah.
Can we try that, Beck? All right. So we're going to try. We'll see if that some members of UploadVR on YouTube look for a notification shortly, hopefully, to try a little member video back here in the studio real quick after we finish this chat. Thank you for the amazing members of the YouTube channel, so not on the website.
Yeah, you got to be a YouTube member.
Get people in here. And this is a test, right? So this is a test to move us along, given that situation of some members on the website, some members on YouTube, and how do we give each of you something? And yeah, so this is for our YouTube members. We'll try to do a quick little member video real quick after this. I want to say thank you to the amazing commenters this week.
Absolutely.
For VR Gamescast. It's been really fun to discuss things with you. I was trying to get us out of here in an hour
Oh no,
with
it ain't
3
happening.
subjects, but we went with an hour and 40 minutes.
Well, we haven't seen each other in since last year.
That's
so
40
we haven't
minutes
had
of
a conversation. That's 40 minutes of catch up. And then I was sick all week last week, so now I'm chomping at the bit to talk about everything under the sun. So it was admirable. The 1 hour was admirable, and
we had an hour. I'm going to call it a success. We did the hour of the show, and then 40 minutes of catch up
or anything. So yeah,
we had to talk about Nicodemus. We had to talk about Grey Dawn, the powerful.
Because look, this is the show where we just chill, and it
at
just
some
goes
point,
it goes off the rails every time, and it's okay.
If I can ever get unshackled from the Quest ecosystem and take this into an Apple Vision Pro, I could pull up Freeform here and have a little chart here, and we can go through the mythological universe of Grey Dawnism. Like it would be Beck as the master of the universe here as the top god, and then right below it would be Grey Dawn, the second god in this pantheon. All right, let's try. All right. Well, let's get to our member show or try that experiment out with our audience real quick after this. Thank you to our audience, and thank you to Beck for broadcasting for us today. Thank you to our support. If you're not a member, thank you for watching and tuning in and for participating in the comments. But we will see you all next week, and tune in for we're not going to be here with David on Thursday, so he's off this week, so maybe we'll do something if the member show is a success, or maybe we'll do another Gamescast. Yeah,
we'll do something fun.
All right, we'll see you later.